We got what we asked for from the SEC. They admitted the call was wrong, and it didn't make anything feel any better.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay Crosby of the Bar in Auburn, as well as a million other places, hanging out with us as we recap Auburn's 24-17 loss on Saturday against Oklahoma. The defense passed the test. More on that later in the show, as well as the next steps that we need to see from Jackson Arnold. But Lindsay, late Saturday night, the SEC releases a statement saying, yep, y'all were right. Oklahoma cheated. That was an illegal play. It should have been a flag. Sorry about it. We'll handle the consequences internally. And I read that, and I'm kind of getting through, and I'm like, yeah, they admitted fault. Let's go. And then I got done reading, and I'm like, oh, we still lost. Like, I don't know. It almost made it feel worse, if I'm being 100% honest with you. It's almost like we had to relive it again.
Yeah, I would argue that it was worse now with the statement, simply from the perspective of, we can argue that it was wrong. And Oklahoma fans were all in everybody's mentions, like, no, this is fine. It wasn't a penalty, whatever. No, we have a quote from the league that the officials got this wrong. Now, they didn't address the other million things that we didn't like about the game, but arguably one of the most pivotal plays of the game not only should not have been a touchdown, it should have been a 15-yard penalty, which pushed them back and made it probably a lot tougher of a field goal if they were to try and kick, like if they didn't get it. And then to your point, at the very end, quote, appropriate accountability will be applied without additional comment.
No, you need to have the additional comment.
Yeah.
SEC.
No, we're going to punish these guys, but you're not going to find out what it is. We're never going to tell you. You just have to trust us that we're going to handle this.
And this is something that teams outside of Auburn, I understand why Oklahoma wouldn't, but it's not like SEC officiating has been a strength of this conference over the last several years. This should be something that every other SEC team looks at. It's like, well, like, yeah, it stinks that Auburn got screwed on that play. And like, depending on how you feel about Auburn within your placement in the SEC, like you can laugh about it or whatever, which is fine. We would do the same thing for other places, but you've got to ask the question of like, wait, yeah, like this doesn't need to happen. And just also assuming everyone's telling the truth, the sideline reporter, I forgot her name, and I think she does a great job. I hate that her name is slipping, but she apparently reported that she asked the lead official, and he's like, yep, we counted the hats. That's all we could do. And it's like, wait, he didn't know the rule. Like, that's a problem. Assuming everyone's telling the truth there.
Yeah. She has no reason to lie about that, right?
I wouldn't say that she would. I would say,
Oh, yeah.
The official, is he deflecting blame? Did he know he messed up and he's just kind of being coy about it or whatever?
Yeah. Here's the thing that I don't understand. And maybe this is the baseball guy in me where I think about how baseball works and how many days
your baseball is Lindsay Crosby.
Baseball is Lindsay Crosby. But listen, in early February, the SEC put out a press release, which I get those to my email because I'm on the mailing list for all the baseball stuff.
Sure.
They put out a mailing list that said that the revenue distribution from the conference to each of the schools totaled $808 million.
Mm-hmm.
How do you generate that much money? And one of the very, very important parts of your marquee sport is handled by part-timers who, if that quote is correct, don't even properly know the rules. If that referee, if this is his full-time job and not something he does on the weekends outside of whatever he does, and I'm not saying go look him up and attack him or anything, but if he's a full-time employee of the league, you think if he's devoting 40 hours a week to this, you think he knows all the rules? You think he recognizes, just like the guy did on ABC, the rules official did, that that's illegal, that that's against the rules? I'm not an official, and I'm telling my wife, like, you can't do that. Like, there's a rule about this.
So I'm going to be honest, I wasn't aware of the rule, but like on the broadcast, the official guy He's like literally reading the rule book on the broadcast. I'm like, what is going on? So, I mean, that's how egregious it was. There's to slightly pivot here. There's a video. I think AL.com put it out on their socials of Hugh Freeze going to shake hands with Oklahoma's head coach, Brent Venables.
Mm-hmm.
And Venables wanted to talk for a second, which whatever, but you could just tell Freeze, like with his body language, like he doesn't really hide how he's feeling, which some people criticize him for. I love it. But you could tell that he was like, this thing is a joke. Like, this is an absolute joke that we're in this situation right now. And then he's asked about it in the presser, the post-game presser, and he's like, I better be quiet. I better not say anything. I better be good. I'm sure we'll get, something about it later today when he addresses the media this afternoon. But just the whole thing, it feels gross and it stinks that it happened to Auburn.
Yeah. And we don't know this for a fact, but it feels like it was preventable because one of the main reasons, according to the quote from ESPN Southern Reporter, is that they didn't know the rule. Not that they improperly interpreted it. They didn't know that that was a rule. And I think that's what's even worse to me is it's preventable. And nobody on the field with the power to stop things or to call that back knew the rule well enough to stop things and call that back. I think that's the worst part for me. Not the statement that they confirmed it,
sure,
but that there was no shot that was ever going to be called correctly. And Oklahoma practiced this. Like, they intentionally wanted to do this. No, I'm sure they knew it wasn't against the rules, and they were hoping they'd get away with it, and they did. That's what's even worse to me is this could have been avoided, and it wasn't.
Right. So we'll see. We'll see what Freeze says about it later today when he addresses the media and previews a very good Texas A&M team. And we'll see if anything happens. Yeah.
Just real quick, because Oklahoma fans are going to be here and they're going to comment on the YouTube video, which, by the way, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the engagement. We're not saying that Auburn only lost because of this, right? Yes, 10 sacks, all of that stuff. Zach's broken it down already on multiple shows since the game happened. But it's impossible to argue that this was not one of the most pivotal plays of the game. And it should not have happened.
Yeah, and it comes, a little bit after the touchdown, the defensive touchdown that got overruled. And I mean, there's already so much. Yeah, I mean, you were already dealing with so much going into Norman, and like it seemed like Oklahoma was the better team going into it. There's a reason they were favored. And like based on the actual play, that I don't know if that was really true. Yeah, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating that Oklahoma
tackled in midair and not called for a pass interference.
No, it's a joke. There's a lot of it that's a joke, and I really hate to be that guy. So probably the last segment I'll do on the ref stuff. Probably so. Jackson Arnold. We saw some good. We saw some bad. I'm concerned the bad isn't fixable. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at the Game Cap. We all love the Game Cap. I wanted to wear the Game Cap, and I can't find mine. It's probably in my truck somewhere. But I love it. I love it. The vintage hat, the vintage style hat. I get comments every time I wear it out. It's the same vintage style hats that you wore in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They go for the same price they did back then. All you have to do is go to thegamecaps.com and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. That's awesome. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design. Use code Locked On for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. Lindsay, I'm going to say one word, and you say the first two words that come to mind.
Got it.
Excellence.
Kia Sorrento.
Wow. You nailed that.
People have always said that. We've always said that.
We've always said it. My family's purchased a Kia Sorrento. We believe in the Kia Sorrento, and you should too. If you're looking for your next ride and you're located near Auburn or Opelika or Atlanta, take the quick drive over to Kia Autosport of Columbus. They're bringing the heat with deals all the time, especially on new Kia Sorrentos. When you get there, ask for Chris Child and mention the show. Say, hey, heard about you, Chris Child. I heard about you from Locked On Auburn. Well, you're going to save $500 right then and there before anything else even happens.
That might be the largest dollar discount this show has ever given.
It's a lot.
Listeners.
It's a lot. Head to Kia Autosport of Columbus, just off of Whittlesey Boulevard in Columbus, Georgia, or visit KiaAutosportColumbus.com to browse their full inventory and start saving today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. A lot of good things and bad things for Jackson Arnold. I think we saw two different sides of him. He made some solid throws. He overthrew some guys. But the main takeaway and question I think we all need to be asking about Jackson Arnold right now is pretty much the same question we were all asking going into the season. Felt better about it going into or leaving the Baylor game. And then it showed signs of, okay, is he holding onto the football too long against Ball State and South Alabama? And
not a state.
Once again, like I think in life you find what you're looking for, right? So like if you wanted to find examples of Jackson not doing that in the first 2 games, you found it. And if you looked for examples of him doing that, you saw it. Obviously at Oklahoma, the game at Oklahoma, it was bad. I mean, there were situations of these 10 sacks, which I saw somewhere that it got adjusted to 9. I've only seen that at one spot, which whatever. I don't think the number actually matters. I think it's more about just the overall level of lack of presence that he has in the pocket. There is no clock going on in his brain when he drops back to pass. And I just don't know how you can do that. It's like the polar opposite of what we saw with Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham and Peyton Thorne, where they're in the pocket for a second and a half, and they're like, I got to leave the pocket. I got to get out of here. And so, like, I think a lot of quarterbacks, you want a little bit of that, just like over comfortable in the pocket. But there was a few, especially in the second half, when he's already been sacked like 7 times or whatever, and he's still just like not hurrying up his cadence at all. I don't know how you coach that out of him at this point.
Yeah, checking with Auburn's official box score, that is correct. It has been moved to 9.
Okay.
I don't know who lost one. It doesn't really matter. Point is, it's been adjusted down to 9 sacks.
They still have plenty.
They still have they still have plenty.
Yeah.
It's not that like it may not be a team record anymore, but it's still a lot of sacks.
I think it is. I think it still is a team record. Sadly.
Nice. That's great. Revenge games are real in one way or the other. Like I've told you, I've always said this. So I think the big thing here, it's like the overcorrection is frustrating. And to me, I still feel like this is something you can work around if you understand why he's holding on to it. And by that, and this is partially my attempt to placate myself. So just work with me here.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah,
let's talk.
Part of me, like, there's a difference in holding on to the ball because you're locked onto a specific receiver and waiting for him to get open versus holding on to the ball because you can't see anyone get open, right? Like how much of this is, and I saw a couple freeze frames on the broadcast where they froze it and they looked and like there's 3 guys in the shot and they're all covered. Like that's one thing. It's one thing if you're locked onto Cam Coleman waiting for him to get open before you throw the ball. It's also, you could argue you don't have to wait for him to get open. 50-50 ball could get to him. But it's another thing if you're looking and looking and looking and can't find a guy. Because you can work around that, right? You can try to scheme different ways to, like, knowing why he's doing it, I think is important.
Sure.
But it does feel like it's not something you can fix. How do you just mitigate it, right? How do you work around it? Do you do timing plays where it's 1, 2, 3, ball out, right? You hit the back step of the drop back. This ball should be out. How do you work around it?
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen that Hugh Freeze isn't going to change stuff for his guy.
Yeah.
You're going to run wants a guy to come in and run his offense. I don't think he's at the point where he wants to mold around a guy. I think he wants a guy to come in and run his offense. And
there's pros and cons of that too.
There are pros and cons. He went out to get Jackson Arnold, and it sounds like there was kind of some disagreements within the staff of like which quarterback to go get. And he said, no, I want Jackson Arnold, which he should be able to do. He's the head coach. And I'm not saying it was the wrong decision, but I do think there are issues in Jackson Arnold's game that I don't know. It's not like he hasn't it's not like he's a freshman. He's been playing college football now for several years. And if there's not a clock in your head, like, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty remarkable that he'll just stand in the pocket after he's been hit 7 times. The fact that he's not like finicky or like antsy or afraid in the pocket, like, I think in a lot of situations that's a net positive, but it was not on Saturday. The other side of this, while I'm not expecting like some flip to switch for Jackson Arnold as far as in the pocket, I don't think you're going to see a pass rush be able to do this to him again this year. A&M's got talent, but I don't think they do what Brent Venables likes to do at Oklahoma. Georgia, I'm a little concerned with. But everything after that, like, those teams are good, but they're not to the level of what Oklahoma is able to do with their front 7, like what we saw on Saturday. So once again, it's what we said going into this stretch here. If you can survive the next 2, I still think you're in an okay spot, but we'll see if Jackson could take that next step. But as of right now, I'm not holding my breath on it.
Yeah, I think your route to not have this be your problem comes down to the offensive line staying healthy, right? It's an incredibly experienced offensive line. They talked about that on the broadcast. They didn't show it on Saturday, but to your point, the defense was really good. And finding ways to just get the ball out quicker on like, RPOs feel like a great option for, hey, this is set up for either you throw the ball in the first 2 beats or you hand it off. It's hard to hold on to the ball when the design of the play is you throw it in the first second or you hand it off. There is ways, even without changing the offense, to kind of work around it a little bit. I do also worry about Georgia, to your point. I do worry a little bit about Alabama. They're not the same Alabama that they were, but they still
we don't know. I mean, both teams are going to be so different by the time they play.
Yeah. But we saw with Connor Lew going down a little bit, being out for a little bit on Saturday. You have a very experienced offensive line, but you sent in, I think, was it either a true freshman or a redshirt freshman to replace him? Briefly.
True freshman. He should be a senior in high school.
True freshman. Yeah. Kid's the youngest kid playing college football. He's pulling Ryan Williams.
He's 17.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you have injuries down the stretch, even one of these teams that you don't worry about to the caliber of an Oklahoma or a Georgia could still give you problems with this. You're going to have to work on finding ways to force him to get the ball out sooner.
Yep.
No, RPOs are a great thing because you also didn't run the ball a lot over the week on Saturday, and most of your yardage came on just 2 big plays.
Well, and that goes back to like Hugh Freeze is going to run his system, and his system is if you load the box to take the runaway, they're going to pass it. We saw it with Jarquez Hunter last year. We saw it on Saturday, and I mean, I said this leading up to Oklahoma, like they're going to make him beat him with his arm, and he couldn't do it. Gosh, it was close. It was so close. We were talking about 1 foot difference, and it's a totally different game, but that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. So we'll see. We'll see if he can do it against Texas A&M. We'll talk more about that matchup later in the week. The defense passed the test, and so much so to where, like, I think it's going to allow you to be competitive in pretty much every game moving forward. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. The Auburn Tigers take on Texas A&M, and it's a similar line. Texas A&M, a 6.5 point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel.
In the Vegas zone.
Yeah, then the over-under 52.5 there. So similar situation when you talk about a spread. I think they're similarly good teams. I'm a Marcel Reed truther, but we'll see exactly how this develops moving forward. Texas A&M ranked as the 9th team in the country according to FanDuel. So Take that for what it's worth. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Square. Square is great for all of your neighborhood businesses. You love neighborhood businesses. You love small businesses.
And businesses, yes.
Yes. Yes. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's a local sports bar packed on game days or coffee shops that know your order by heart. A lot of them use Square. And Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million of these businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. The defense surprised me on Saturday. And I think the way the defense stepped up against John Mateer should give you hope and higher expectations for how they can defend Marcel Reed this Saturday, how they can, match up against Gunnar Stockton for Georgia the following week, Bo Prabula against Missouri, and so on. Mm-hmm. Because I think they answered the call, Lindsay. This defense looked like the defense we talked about all summer.
Yeah, it feels like if this defense plays the way that they played on Saturday, right? Not gaudy sack totals, but just generally being able to disrupt the passing game, being able to disrupt the running game. Auburn's going to be in just about every single game that they play. I don't see an offense in the SEC that's going to face that Auburn defense that we saw one Saturday and just blow them out. Like you're going to have busts. You're going to have issues. It happens with every single team. But that is a classic Auburn defense that we've had in the past. Some of the great ones we think about. They have the potential to be in that conversation with the way that they can do just about anything, whether it's stopping the run, pass, disrupting the pass, forcing turnovers, scoring on them despite the officials calling it back, all that kind of stuff. Like they're good in just about every single respect.
Yeah. Without Jay Crawford, obviously. And so that's obviously exciting and nice. We'll see if he's able to come back against Texas A&M. They, I think, have better receivers than Oklahoma, but they don't have as good of a quarterback. But I am a Marcel Reed truther. I think he is fantastic. I think he's very underrated, and I think he presents problems. Not as consistent from an accuracy standpoint, but when he is on, there are very few players in college football better than him when he's on. And Auburn kind of saw a nice combination of both in that quadruple overtime win against Texas A&M last year, where he had moments where he was on and he had moments where he wasn't. And so did Notre Dame when they beat Notre Dame a few weeks ago. So they're going to have their hands full. I hate that they had a bye week and we were playing a very physical game on the road in Norman and we've got to go to College Station. That stinks. But we all knew that. We all knew that going into the season, that this stretch of 3 games is awful. And if you can find a way to win one of them, 9-3 is totally on the table. You got to find a way to do it. I thought Oklahoma, I still believe this. That I thought Oklahoma was the most winnable game of the 3. I still believe that just because of the how each game is situated. I think Georgia after a bye week is probably more gettable than the game this week. I think it's a big deal that Auburn went on the road, played a physical game while A&M was sitting at home recovering, and we have to then turn around and go back to College Station. Like I think a lot of folks are overlooking how brutal that is.
The travel's a bigger thing than we're all talking about. And then the health discrepancy, to your point of not getting beat up for a week.
We were already banged up.
Yeah, exactly. We're already banged up. We didn't have a week to be off. I do think that being on the road, I know people don't, for some reason, have the respect of Texas A&M like they do in LSU, like they do some of these other schools that they're known for their environments. I do think just one, the sheer hassle of trying to get to College Station, and then the sheer size of that crowd is is like, I would rather face them. Obviously, I mean, everybody would say neutral site versus away, but I think the odds would be significantly different in a neutral site or away. College Station's not easy to get to.
Yeah,
and it's not easy to be in there in that stadium.
I was thinking about this last night, actually, because you articulated better than I was thinking it in my brain. But I do think Auburn may overlook College Station because we had early success there when they came into the conference. And I wonder if that impacts how we as a fan base view that venue.
I could see that. And also like being able to, and I think when you see things like the Johnny Manziel Texas A&M teams and Auburn being able to beat them, you kind of, to your point, elaborate on your point. There's a little bit of a mentally, you're like, oh yeah, no, even their best possible teams were better than them. And it's like, that's not necessarily how it works.
We did go to the national championship that year.
Yeah. Like and that's not always that's not always going to be the expectation going forward, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So take it for what it's worth, but happy with the defense. To get back to our original point, I think it passed the test. I think it gives you a shot like last year's defense. I think it gave you a shot in every game. Can the offense catch up? A lot of that's on Jackson Arnold. So we'll see. Lindsay Crosby, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball, wrapping up the Win a Brave season over at bravestoday.com. And then all of the Auburn baseball content, the Barn Auburn, going to be getting into fall camp soon. Hopefully some notes coming from that.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.